guys, Kyle the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for Black Clover Episode 8, and right off the bat, I have to start off by saying that the pacing in this episode was not the greatest compared to the past couple episodes we got. And I think the major thing that did slow it down was basically that scene with the poker game. Now, the thing about it is that basically, not necessarily the poker game itself, but the deal Yami made with the villager was technically in the manga, but they pretty much, what Studio Pierrot did is they used the exposition of the poker game, and they made it into filler pretty much, which on one hand, yeah, it was kind of funny in order to see Magna and Yami playing a game of strip poker with a random villager. But on the other hand, I think that was the one thing that really slowed the episode down. To be honest with you, like honestly, I think you could have done a lot more focus on particularly the back half of this episode. To be honest with you, but yeah, I think you could have really done a lot more by focusing on the back half of this episode. But yeah, and honestly, I think I've been talking with people online and they say that I've been kind of like, the thing is with this, it kind of is pushing forward my one of the little articles I heard about, that apparently Black Clover and the first 51 episodes is only going to be covering the first 37 chapters. So we are going to probably get more in canon filler like this. The in canon filler might start getting better by the time that fighting actually starts, but who knows? But yeah. But aside from that, like I said, the pacing wasn't the greatest, but it was kind of nice to see the interaction between Asta and the other Black Bulls in this episode, and learning a bit more about them and their magic, which is pretty standard fare for basically a show like this. But the two that stood out for me were Charmy and Gray. Charmy's magic and the way she uses it, it's funny, but also in the cruelest of ways. Like, Charmy, pretty much as a character so far, she is a glutton, of course, so she basically uses her magic to stuff her face and whatnot, and I don't think she realizes just how useful a power like that could actually be if she shared her magic, because she could help every person in the kingdom, or not every person, but every poor family, every poor person who can afford food and she uses it to stuff her face. Like, yeah, Charmy, you're being very greedy and very cruel with your magic right now. Like, I want you to use it in order to help other people out, please. But yeah. Also, Gray's magic. Now, Gray's magic, on the other hand, it is a very powerful magic. It is a very useful but also very dangerous magic, and very powerful, because Gray's magic, it was funny to see him transform into Asta, and maybe, just maybe, if Asta looks at the transformed version of himself, a person who transforms into himself long enough, he'll actually maybe stop yelling his ass off. But I digress. Like, the thing about, like, even though that whole scene was funny of Gray conversing with Asta as himself, it does really bring up the fact that it's good that Gray is on the side of the Black Bulls and on the side of the kingdom, because whenever I see transformation magic in any kind of show, or any kind of transformation ability at all, well, like, for instance, with I think the best example so far is Toga's ability in My Hero Academia. I always take it into perspective that it's good that Gray is on the side of the good guys of the kingdom, because imagine if he wasn't. Imagine if he used his power for pretty much any of the antagonists in the series. The first thing that comes to mind is espionage and infiltration. Like, whenever a power like that is brought in, it always brings up those two elements: espionage and infiltration into my mind. And that just makes me realize that this kind of power like it introduces the concept of the power, and it also gives us clarity that yes, there are probably going to be other people like this who do work for the antagonists who actually have this power, and it really just gives you something in order to really fear. Like I think transformation magic as a whole is one of the most feared types of abilities ever when you really think about it. But and great. I'm just glad you're on our side, dude, because I know there are probably many others out there who are going to meet who have this power. And but yeah, and like I said, the episode wasn't the greatest pacing. They didn't get to the actual mission until the back half. Although I do gotta admit that whole broomstick Magna has definitely fits him. That's a badass broom. I'm not gonna lie. But like I said, the episode really kicks off in the letter near the end where we see a guy who uses ice magic appears and a bunch of robed followers of his, I guess, or something. Meaning we've gotten introduced to our first big threat of the series. So this does mean that things will finally start getting interesting, hopefully, from this point on. And we also learn basically from a bit of dialogue that they're looking for something called the Magic Stone. Now, the question is, what does it do, and are there more? Because typically in a show like this, when people refer to a magical object, it usually applies to something that acts as a conduit for magical power. So, if that's the case, what's this magical stone used to power, or used to power? If I had to guess, I'd say like a magical siphoning device, or just a magical weapon, even I think, or just a magical weapon in general, honestly. 'Cause, and if that's the case, I am interested to see where they're going to go with this plot thread and what this weapon, and if the magical stone is used to power a weapon, what kind of weapon it's going to be. Because whenever magical stones and weapons are together, it's never really a good sign. It always means something's coming. And honestly, just the design of this guy alone is threatening enough already. So yeah, we finally got introduced to our first big villain, and honestly, I'm really interested to see what exactly he can do, and like I'm interested to see what he can do and what Ass is going to be able to do against him. Like we know Ass is probably going to beat him, but I am interested to see like definitely more of him now that we've got introduced to him. I'm interested to see what he can do now. So, so yeah, guys, that's pretty much my review. Like I said, it's it's one of those episodes where it does have certain points that are honestly like the I'd say the beginning portion and the end portion and the beginning portion and at the point where the and at the point with the where at the point where Yami actually gives them the mission are the only good things. But that, yeah, like I'll just leave you guys to decide what parts you want to watch in this episode. But that's my review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, or follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Death Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, guys.